to the Crown Ethnic Wear Competition. Let us celebrate the country's heritage through fashion with finest Filipino designers and advocacy-driven gentlemen. From Silver Reef Dive Resort, Darwin Negros Oriental. This is the 8th Annual Misters of Filipinas Ethnic Wear Competition. With our hosts from Peps TV, Iñaki Torres, Crystal Galang, and Solo Adriano.
Even though it's pandemic, we still managed to push through because of you guys.
Speaking of pandemic, syempre, Misters of Filipinas organization and the province of Negros Oriental made sure that we strictly followed the health protocols. So, what are you waiting for? Let's now witness the beautiful creations of our local designers and the candidates in their ethnic wear competition here at
Misters of Filipinas 8th edition.
Welcome to our Road to the Crown, the annual Misters of Filipinas Ethnic Wear Competition. Let us begin our ethnic wear competition with Misters of Filipinas, Davao del Norte, Norman Coronel Jr., designer, Mark Joseph Sayad. This indigenous costume is inspired by local tribal groups from Davao del Norte that include Atamanobo, Mansaka, Mandaya, Dibabawon Mangunga. This indigenous costume is inspired by local tribal groups from Davao del Norte that include Atamanobo, Mansaka, Mandaya, Dibabawon, Mangunguan, Sama, and Kagaan. The outer part of the costume is inspired by our national bird, which is monkey-eating eagle, or the Philippine eagle. It symbolizes victory, pride, and royalty, which is the 7 tribes contributes to us. This eagle-like costume represents the strength, uniqueness, and love of freedom of the 7 tribes. Misters of Filipinas, Davao del Norte, Norman Coronel Jr.
Misters of Filipinas, Cordova, Cebu. Ed Kevin Tumulak. Designer, Aldo Sineneng Loquinario. This costume is a representation of Cordova's main source of livelihood, which is fishing. The design was intricately made by selected glittery sequins and different kinds of wood beads joining together, creating a design simple yet extravagant, making the whole costume synchronizingly alluring to the naked eye. Boat and paddle signifies adventure and journey across life, whether by faith, education, strength, direction, curiosity, or any other such motivation. Kerosene lamp symbolizes light and life, divinity, intellect and good works, which are the manifestations of the symbolic nature of the lamp. Home of the Dinagat and Bakasi festival, when everyone's at bed, he draws up his daily bread. Misters of Filipinas, Cordova, Cebu. Ed Kevin Tumulak.
Misters of Filipinas, City of Manila, Santa Mesa. Randall J. Urian. Designer, Prince Aiki Morales. A modern Barong Tagalog-inspired costume handmade by Abaca Fabric. This costume was carefully and majestically beaded, giving a modern touch. It is mainly in brown color to represent the Kayumangi skin of Filipinos. It is embellished with beads that represents the historical and bountiful resources of Manila. In the hand, you can see a miniature replica of the Mabini Shrine. A historical site in Santa Mesa, Manila, it is the original house owned by Apolinario Mabini, one of the Philippines' national heroes, who is also known as the Sublime Paralytic and the brains of the Philippine Revolution. This costume symbolizes a strong, bold, and empowered man like Apolinario Mabini. Misters of Filipinas, City of Manila, Santa Mesa, Randall J. Urian.
Misters of Filipinas, Pampanga, Jomar Pabalam. Designer, Karamba Karamba. This national costume is derived from the word paranum, a Kapampangan term that means irrigation. Farming is one of the main industries in the province of Pampanga, and the use of artificial irrigation symbolizes the determination, hard work, and perseverance of every farmer. The province is also known for its growing industry in sculpture, tool-making, and other handicrafts. The costume is handmade with a variety of materials that symbolize and prove that the Kapampangans are naturally creative and resourceful. 7 prominent mountains in the province are also painted in the costume. Misters of Filipinas, Pampanga, Jomar Pabalan.
Mr. Soft Filipinas, Tumingag, Zamboanga Peninsula is wearing a costume that reflects Mindanao's true colors and characteristics, which are vibrant, calm and serene, nature lover, and passionate. This whole ensemble is also inspired by Subanen traditional wear, as an expression of their deep sense of culture. It is accentuated with big baskets that symbolize hard work and abundance of local products. Mr. Soft Filipinas, Tumingag, Zamboanga Peninsula. Januarius Paglinawan.
Misters of Filipinas, Caloocan City, Romel Ayag. Designer, Olan Roque. This is an artist's illustration of a modern Katipunero outfit inspired by Andres Bonifacio's iconic costume, characterized by white camisa and red pants with uneven folds, which visually signifies the Katipunan flag. This is believed to be the outfit of Andres Bonifacio and other Katipunan members in the First Battle of Pinaglabanan in 1896. The bolo serves as a symbol of the will and aggressiveness of the Katipuneros to defend the country's sovereignty, particularly in the cry of Pugadlawin. The red scarf, on the other hand, is believed to symbolize their willingness to shed their blood for the country's freedom. Misters of Filipinas, Caloocan City, Romel Ayag.
Mr. Soft Filipinas, GMA Cavite. Jason Bardelas. Designer, John Aliliran. We are all heroes in our own way. Mr. GMA Cavite is delighted to present to you the creation of Mr. John Aliliran, illustrated by Francis Toledo, to give you the spirit of heroism and religious belief. Behind this masterpiece is one of the oldest churches in General Mariano Alvarez, Cavite Holy Family Parish. This piece is called Honorifico, which stands for bravery inspired by General Mariano Alvarez, modern costume, who fought during the Spanish colonization. Mr. Soft Filipinas, GMA Cavite, Jason Bardelas.
Mr. Soft Filipinas, Camarines Sur. Joshua James Dino. Designer, Jerome Villanueva. From the majestic beaches of Camarines Sur, this creation illustrates purity of water and treasure of our country, formed to reflect an image of a strong, patriotic, and modern lister. Studded with pearl, forming a barong-inspired top with lace and crystals paired with a two-sided tapis, perlas and lambat, which embody the hard work of Camarines Sur's fishermen. Salakot overlaid with artificial seashells covering tops this creation with the bolo on the hand, symbolizing the strength of every countryman to fight for what is ours. Salakot, barong, tapis, and bolo 4 different pieces but in one significant figure. A man of culture and love for his country. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Camarines Sur, Joshua James Dino.
Misters of Filipinas, Lapu-Lapu City, John Christian Arong. Designer, Noel Inez. Candidate number 9 is wearing a costume that symbolizes bravery, freedom, passion, hope, and enlightenment as manifested with colors red and gold. The costume is composed of a modernized bahag and vest with a bolo and shield that is inspired by the heroism of Datu Lapu-Lapu. It is accentuated with a headpiece, an armband, and a necklace. Misters of Filipinas, Lapu-Lapu City, John Christian Arong.
Mr. Sa Filipinas, Filipino Community of United Arab Emirates, Nadim El Zain. Designer, Tuesday Bello. The costume is a fusion of the most popular national dress of 2 countries, inspired from the Philippines barong and United Arab Emirates kandura. The front of the dress showcases the intricate designs from both countries. It is also an appreciation of his heritage both of UAE and the Philippines. The costume's message is unity in diversity and different cultures can unite and live harmoniously. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Filipino Community of United Arab Emirates, Nadim El Zain.
Mr. Sa Filipinas, Zamboanga City, Zamboanga Peninsula. Lee Zain Hali. Designer, Jonard Bazan. This costume is proudly called Sagwan because of its relevance and embodiment of Zamboanga's colorful and diverse cultural heritage and history, which transcends throughout generations. Timeless and steady, much like a sagwan. Propelling our ancient heritage gracefully through current times reminds us that we are all descendants of great royal and cultural lineage. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Zamboanga City, Zamboanga Peninsula, Lee Zain Hali.
Misters of Filipinas, Laguna, Derek Allen Lauchenko. Designer, TM Label and Futari. The costume is inspired by the largest lake in the country, Laguna Lake, also known as Laguna de Bay. The colors blue, white, and silver represents water and blessings given by the lake to the people around it. The lake is shaped like a crow's foot with 2 peninsulas jutting out from the northern shore. As mythical like the lake, the costume looks like a unique water creature, reminding us that everybody must take care of nature's gifts, as it gives us food, employment, and bountiful blessings. Misters of Filipinas, Laguna, Derek Allen Lauchenko.
Misters of Filipinas, Batangas, Jiro Ed Magbuhat. Designer, Patrick I. Sorena. This costume is inspired by Malupito Festival of San Nicolas, Batangas. The festival draws attention because of the most important product, and in this lakeshore town, Maliputo is a star. Maliputo is a freshwater fish that is found in Taal Lake. It is a delectable fish with a firm flesh and a rare delicacy in Batangas. Hence paved way to the inception of Maliputo Festival, celebrated every 8th of August. The foundation day of San Nicolas. The event lists typical festival activities such as street dancing, but the highlight of it is the Cook Fest that showcase various Maliputo dishes. Misters of Filipinas, Batangas, Jiro Ed Magbuhat.
Mr. Sa Filipinas, Taguig City, Gabriel Ira Bautista. Designer, Jeremy Avila. The costume is inspired by Santa Anang Banak, Taguig River Festival. The costume is inspired by Santa Anang Banak Taguig River Festival. The festival is a grand fluvial parade in honor and devotion to the patroness Saint Anne. Folk legend has it that in 1587, Taguig, then known as Pook ng mga Taga-Giik, plunged into crisis after farmers lost all of their harvests. Amid their despair, Saint Anne and the little girl Mary appeared and led them to the river, suddenly teeming with banak. Saint Anne gathered thousands of schools of banak fishes in the river near her church to give to the Taga-Giiks, presently known as Taguig. Every part of the legend is highlighted in the festival's events. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Taguig City. Gabriel Ira Bautista.
Misters of Filipinas Negros Oriental, Sean Emmanuel Vintola. Designer, Noel Duhay Lungsod. Very much like his habitat's original name, Buglas, the Negorense male demonstrates the flexibility, strength, and endurance of a bamboo, as the bamboo can tolerate extreme conditions that most plants cannot. The same way that the Negorense male rose above the challenges that accompanied the arrival of Spanish explorers and surmounted the nasty vestiges of the 1898 Philippine Revolution. The Negorense male can be dark-skinned owing to his dusky ancestors, but he can also be fair, just like the Spanish travelers, who were entranced and mesmerized by the splendor and innate exquisiteness of the land. Daring and artful, the Negorense male is likewise benevolent in his ways, fair in his judgment, and possesses endurance similar to a bamboo. Misters of Filipinas Negros Oriental, Sean Emmanuel Vintola.
Mr. Sa Filipinas, Lawag City. Byron Paul Salamanca. Designer, Amor Albano. Green refreshing carpet of lush crops and vegetations blanketing the land overseen from the sky above by flocks of birds swing gracefully under the hopeful eyes of the radiant sun inspire the costume of Mr. Lawag. The native color of the simple yet satisfying life in the barrio can be reflected in its every design. The Ilocano values of frugality and hard work embedded in the details of its aesthetics, completing it with the symbolic northern sun which radiates brightly, ensuring hope and endless possibilities to all Ilocanos. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Lawag City. Byron Paul Salamanca.
Mr. Sa Filipinas, Isabela. Felixander Dalupang. Designer, Norbert Valdez. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Isabela parades a modernized portrayal of native Kalinga warrior carrying in his back an exaggerated imitation of rice grains. The concept and inspiration of the ensemble were drawn from the facts that Isabela Province is known as the second largest producer of rice in our country, and it is also a melting pot of various ethnicity and tribes of northern Luzon. The back dress, made of strips of kawayan, patiently woven to create an exaggerated imitation of the rice grains, were assembled to pay tribute to the golden grains of palay, which are products of hard work for Isabelinos, and is carried by Kalinga warrior, who was among the first inhabitants of the province and was recognized as pioneers in farming. His attire was meticulously accentuated with plastic beads, which are dominant colors of the tribe. The Kalinga warrior, coined as Headhunter, is also armed with a spear and an axe, ready to defend and guard his beloved land. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Isabela, Felixander Dalupang.
Misters of Filipinas City of Manila Tondo, Kenneth Aniban. Designer, Edwin Uy. This costume represents the warrior chief ruler, Lacandula of Tondo, during the pre-Spanish times. Before the Spaniards came, Tondo used to be ruled by Lacans and Rajas. They were not just rulers but also fierce warriors, and they defended Manila when the Spaniards came here during the 16th century. Misters of Filipinas City of Manila Tondo, Kenneth Aniban.
Misters of Filipinas, Subic Zambales, Rahim Babar. Designer, Rani Raimundo. Rahim is wearing a traditional costume of an Agta tribesman. Agta or Aita are the indigenous people who live in scattered, isolated mountainous parts of Luzon, including Subic. They are thought to be among the earliest inhabitants of the Philippines. The costume is inspired by the bamboo and kugun grass. The Aita are also animists. They believe that good and evil spirits inhabit the environment, such as the spirits of the river, sea, sky, mountain, hill, valley, and other places. Thus, their clothing symbolizes their cultures and traditions. Misters of Filipinas, Subic Zambales, Rahim Babar.
Mr. of Filipinas, Liloan Cebu. Dexter Tundag. Designer, Noel Inez. This costume is an ensemble of garments, jewelries, and accessories that greatly depicts the history of Cebuano culture and festivity. This ethnic printed catsuit embellished with feathers is a symbolism of freedom, transcendence, and communication with spiritual beliefs to the most religious image of Señor Santo Niño. Accompanied by the headpiece, a portrayal of Cebuano's deep sense of joyfulness and celebration towards its origin. Mr. Sa Filipinas Liloan Cebu, Dexter Tundag. Mr. Sa Filipinas Cavite, James Edward Haya. Designer, Alan Roque. The costume symbolizes the land of the braves, national heroes, and martyrs who made great history in making the province of Cavite as the cradle of the Philippine Revolution against the Spanish Empire. It was patterned after the military outfit worn by General Emilio Aguinaldo, a Filipino leader and politician who achieved independence for the Philippines in 1898 and was elected the first president of the Republic of the Philippines. Mr. Sa Filipinas Cavite, James Edward Haya.
Misters of Filipinas Tarlac, Zeus Sado. Designer, Patrick Isorena. The costume is inspired by the Ilang Ilang festival held annually in the streets of Anao. Ilang Ilang are highly scented flowers that grow in kananga trees or shrubs. The flower, shaped like a sea star, is usually greenish yellow and emits a very rich and deep scent. The flower festival featured a fragrant and colorful street dancing competition joined by participants from the town's 9 barangays. The dancers were usually clad in costumes made from indigenous materials. This costume aims to promote the town's ilang-ilang industry and ilang-ilang products like perfume, soap, and beauty products, which are a source of livelihood for the townspeople. Misters of Filipinas Tarlac, Zeus Sado.
Mr. of Filipinas Mandaluyong, Gerald Castañeda. Designer, Candy Segovia. Mandaluyong is also known as Tiger City of Metropolitan Manila because of the remarkable rate of development as to business and infrastructure. Our city has been considered as one of the progressive economic in our country. This costume is inspired by the tiger that symbolizes bravery, strength, power, and valor. Mr. Sa Filipinas, Mandaluyong, Gerald Castañeda.
Mr. Sa Filipinas Cebu City, Junichi Yabushita. Designer, Aldo Sineneng Loquinario. This creation is a tribute to the introduction of Christianity in Spanish colonial era and their gift of Santo Niño to all Cebuanos. This costume is a representation of how extravagant, festive, and progressive Cebu City is. The guitar, lechon, hanging rice, and Cebu's Cordova Bridge truly represents Cebu City. It is accentuated meticulously, hand-beaded with selected sequins, fine ornaments, and native colored wood beads. Mr. Sa Filipinas Cebu City, Junichi Yabushita.
Misters of Filipinas Albay, Anthony Alpe. Designer, Patrick Isorena. Albay is the home of the majestic Mayon volcano. Derived its name from Magayon, which means beautiful. The costume depicts Pangaronon, the great hero. He's also the defender and lover of Daragang Magayon. According to legend, Pangaronon died in the arms of his great love, Magayon, while defending her. The mountain which grew from the land where Magayon and Pangaronon were buried is now known as Mayon Volcano. They also believe that Pangaronon is kissing Magayon when clouds meet at the top of the volcano. Their great love for each other is what the Albayanos consider as abundant harvest and resilience in facing any challenges of life. Misters of Filipinas, Albay, Anthony Alpe.
Misters of Filipinas, Olongapo City, Kevin Lacanlao. Designer, Lloyd Masmila. Olongapo City, facing the abundant sea, provides the small community a livelihood of fishing. The costume is inspired with the Sibit Festival, which is an annual event held in Olongapo to depict the rich and colorful history of the city. Sibit is a word derived from the erstwhile saga of Ulo ng Apo, which connotes the small paddle bangka used for fishing. Fishermen in native boats compete in Sibit boat race. The native attire symbolizes the festivity and Filipino culture, and at the back are the colorful sail of the bangkas. It promotes the culture of fishing and recognizes the importance of fisherfolk on the region. Misters of Filipinas, Olongapo City.
Ethnic costume competition is a tradition of Mr. South Filipinas pageant that started since 2015. Every year, candidates showcase their unique ethnic wear, and this year is not an exception.
Wow guys, sobrang ganda talaga ng costumes. Lalo na gawa sila ng ating local artists.
sobrang galing talaga ng Filipinos pagdating sa mga gitong bagay, no?
And alam mo, one thing na napansin ko, Crystal and Solo, napansin ko yung mga Misters of Filipinas aspirants natin na talagang dalang-dala, talagang damang-dama nila yung pagsuot, how they represent yung mga gawa ng mga designs.
Alam mong bakit? Kasi every year,
Misters of Filipinas has this segment.
Bago natin makalimutan, we would like to thank Negros Oriental for making this event possible.
Yes, maraming salamat. And syempre hindi natin kakalimutan magpasalamat sa ating partners and sponsors. At syempre, sa Silver Reef Dive Resort. Ayan, even though it's pandemic, we still managed to push through because of you guys.
Tama ka dyan. Kasi even if it's pandemic, like you said, Misters of Filipinas organization and the province of Negros Oriental made sure that we strictly followed the protocols.
Ay nako, Cristel! For sure magugustuhan mo yung segment natin bukas.
Bakit? Anong meron bukas?
Ano ka ba? Swimmer competition, same time, same channel, here at
Misters of Filipinas 8th edition.